When you feel that way, when you feel scared, when you want to run, when you don't trust, she says, I trust in you.
Right.
And that's what I said at that moment. And I took a deep breath and I said it like 3 times and they introduced me and I walked on that stage.
Welcome to Sports Spectrum, keeping Jesus in the sports conversation. Here's your host for today's show, former ESPN producer, Jason Romano. Hi, friends. Welcome into Transformed. I'm Jade McCarthy. As always, so wonderful to have you here with us. And I am super excited about my guest today. I actually have 2 of them, which is even more fun. But let me start with the first, who I have now known her for more than a decade, which kind of reminds me about the passage of time and how quickly it can go. But we sat side by side several times on the SportsCenter set together. So she too is an ESPN alum. She is an Indiana U grad, and she is a mom of 3. So some things that we share in common. Excited to welcome her onto the podcast, and also excited to welcome a voice familiar in this space, someone who also walked the walls of ESPN. And that would be Jason Romano. So Jason Romano, Sage Steele, so great to have you both here on Transformed.
Wow.
We're all together again.
It's an ESPN reunion. This is amazing.
Cue the music, right?
Oh my gosh, this is awesome.
Yes, I love it. It's like we're in the cafeteria just getting a sandwich and
oh my
goodness.
Tammy and
or a Starbucks line for sure. Can I real quick just say, like, I'm going to blow Jade up right now because I remember talking to you when you were pregnant with your first child and you're like, yep, one and done. I'm good. And I kept saying,
Totally.
Girlfriend, no. So beautiful. And I mean, you were the perfect pregnant girl on national TV and you rocked it. I remember rubbing your belly like a weirdo. And now look,
Why
you
does
got like
everybody
12
do that, by the way? Just out of curiosity, like, why does everybody do that when you're pregnant? The rub your belly thing.
I felt like we were close enough because
well, no, you could, but other people would do it like in the grocery store, and you're like, whoa, weird. Personal space.
No, that's weird. I had 3 and wanted 4, and I was envious that you were pregnant. I was like, I want to do it, and I couldn't. And now you've got like 12 kids.
No,
like,
I do not have 12.
Wanting 1 to 12. Like, you crack me up, and I'm so glad that it happened this way.
Well, I have the 4, so I guess, go figure. But the passage of time, like I said, it's just one of those things that you're like, wow, man. I was thinking about it as we were getting ready to record this, and I was like, I was like doing the math, right? And I was like, I've known Sage for like 12 years. That's crazy.
I can't believe it.
I know.
World.
7, Sage, when you first started, when I think you were working on First Take initially, weren't you, when you first started? And that's when I was working with you.
Started actually on SportsCenter and bombed. And so they quickly moved me to doing just SportsCenter updates on Mike and First Take before they started to let me fill in again on SportsCenter after a couple of years. And so, 07 primarily just update girl on First Take and Mike.
Wow.
How it all changes, right? Like, what do you think about? I mean, the show is called Transformed, right? So you think about the transformations that you have gone through personally, professionally, all of it from like then to now, Sage. Like, how would you even describe that?
I should have put 2 and 2 together with the title of your show, and now you're making me think about it live. It's overwhelming and awesome and very humbling at the same time. I was a different person in 2007, and I'm still the same person here where it matters, I think, in my heart and how I treat people and how I view the world. Well, kind of, that part's changed. That part's transformed too, actually. But as far as being really fearful of my own shadow at times, much less other people and bosses and the public, and fear of disappointing the world, most importantly, the people next to me, my friends and family. And that certainly translated into coworkers and leadership. And oh gosh, so that's probably the biggest way that I've transformed, is to just let go of the pressure that I always put on myself to be so perfect. And that certainly has affected every aspect of my life.
Yeah, that's good, Sage, because I think We all evolve as we get older, right? And we all have different seasons of life that we think about. Like when we think about when we all first met, gosh, that was such a different time for so many, for all of us in terms of where we stand today versus where we were. I'm curious spiritually how you've transformed over the past few years, because I know that's been a big part of your life and growing in a relationship with God and just understanding a little bit more about your faith.
Oh, again, completely transformed, evolved. I've always had a strong faith. I grew up Catholic and still practicing Catholic. I have the most wonderful priest in my life that he's just awesome. He's texting me last night. We text all the time. We're friends. He'll get done with mass, and I usually end up going alone now. I only have one kid left at home now. The other two are in college, and she is working all day Sundays. And so I go by myself, and usually I'll wait afterwards till the whole crowd passes and, shake his hand, and I'll stay and we'll talk for an hour sometimes about just life. And that's really, he has changed me, because I think I was disenchanted so much with the Catholic Church in some ways, and just in general kind of organized religion. And not that something bad happened, but it was exhausting for me. And he brought me back, so to speak, in a really kind way, just through conversation. And I think one of the coolest things has been, and this is very recent, I mean, this is within the last 6 months, where now I'm proud to speak publicly about it, where before it was always just super private. Listen, I think even as Catholics, like, you go to church and you do your thing, and it's very meaningful. It's not just robotic. But I love, one of the reasons I love Catholicism is because I feel like I can go to any church in the world and walk in and feel comfortable and know what to do, and know many of the hymns and know what to say. And so I'm okay now owning that. And some people bash the church, and I teach his own. For me, though, to finally be okay talking publicly about it, and the way it happened, and I'll be quiet, I know I'm talking too much already, shocker. I was asked in the spring by a good friend of mine who works with NASCAR to come to, it was the Speedway in Austin, Texas, COTA, and to give the invocation at the NASCAR race. Mm-hmm. And I was like, you want me to what? You want me to pray publicly? You don't do that. Catholics don't pray out loud in church. And then when you say grace, and otherwise it's all very private. It's the way I thought. And so she's like, yeah, girl, you can do this. And I was like, no. And she's like, yes. She's a friend to push you out of your comfort zone. That's what true friends do, especially if sometimes they believe in us more than we believe in ourselves. So long story short, I did it. And I was more scared than I'd been about anything in maybe since I first started on TV in 1995. Like, I wanted to vomit, and and you have to have like exactly 30 seconds, because the flyover, and then this is live on Fox and in front of 150,000 people in front of you. So I was like, no, I'm, to pray in front of all those people. And right as I was getting ready to walk out on stage, you guys, they had me behind the black curtain. It's a massive stage, and I'd memorized it. I didn't want to do notes, memorized it. And all of a sudden my mind went blank, and I was like, oh, it's gone. Like, what am I going to do? And I almost ran away. I wanted to run. And my aunt taught me something a couple of years ago when all my kind of chaos began at work. And she reminded me, and it hit me at that moment. When you feel that way, when you feel scared, when you want to run, when you don't trust, she says, I trust in you. Right. And that's what I said at that moment. And I took a deep breath, and I said it like 3 times, and they introduced me, and I walked on that stage, and they gave me the microphone, and my mind was blank. And they introduced me, and I just closed my eyes, and somehow it perfectly, every word that I had wanted to say came out perfectly in front of the world. And I got off the stage, and I cried, and my girlfriend who was there, she cried, and I had drivers and like pit crew guys coming up to me and stopping me and saying how much my words resonated. So I get emotional talking about it, because what if I had listened to those fears, especially for something that was so personal. So at that moment, I think it was in March or May, whichever one, it changed me for life to get out there publicly and say it. I'm sad that it took so long. I'm 50. I wish it had happened a long time ago, but this was God's plan, I guess. And now once you have that fearlessness with everything, but especially with your faith. It is powerful, and it's been really cool to see.
Yeah. Faith over fear, right? I mean, it is hard to get to that point, and just having that trust, right? Like you said, Jesus, I trust in you. And like knowing that if it's what he wants for you, it's going to happen. Like that's it. And there's no way to stop it. So however it is, like however age you are or whatever age you are, when you reach that point and you have that, like you said, it is transformational. It is life-changing. And I wonder what that has then put on your heart and your mind, that now that you're there, you're like, well, God, what do you want me to do with this? Right? Like, where does that sort of thought take you, Sage?
With my faith, being out open about my faith, or in general? Yeah. Right now, I just feel like whenever I have an opportunity, I speak about it. There have been many people who've asked me, gosh, how have you gotten through the last couple of years? You know, at work, professionally, and personally, a lot of stuff personally too. And number one, I know why. Like it's awesome to know. I've always felt that God had a plan for me. You know, sometimes though we get in our own way and his way, and we try to control it. So I finally let go of that, and that was kind of cool. And then, you know, my parents have always raised us to just rely on God, and I just fully let go. So along with God, and then my parents, who have at times had to come here to my home and like lift me off the ground. I was like, I can't do it, can't do it, can't do it. And prayed with me. There's one moment in particular I can share later maybe, but just about when I was coming back from my suspension, when I'd been suspended at ESPN, and a moment there with prayer that my dad kind of, you know, the old football coach, gathered us and gave me some, I don't know, strength to walk in there again, you know. But that's the only reason I've been able to get through things, is because of my faith. And I just love that I'm able to, I'm not afraid to share it anymore. So I don't know what he wants me to do with it, except to keep doing this and being fearless about it, no matter what people say or how they judge me, because they will. But it's kind of nice to not care anymore.
What did your dad say to you that night?
So my mom and dad had come because not only had I been suspended and certainly just scared for my future, I had gotten COVID after I got the shot that I didn't want to get, that got me in trouble for speaking about. So it was a whole mess, and I was physically not great. So they came down, even though it was ill-advised, because my dad has 2 kinds of cancer, and to be around a COVID patient. This is 2 years ago too. A lot has changed, certainly. But that's what moms and dads do. That's what we do, right? You're there for your kid, even if your kid's old.
You just go.
You just go, and they did, and they came. And so when I was so scared to walk back onto ESPN campus, my best friend Tiffany was here, and you guys know Tiffany.
I love Tiffany.
Yes, she began as just one of the makeup artists who made me feel good and pretty and confident to go on.
There's no just about Tiff. No, like she is a rock star. Just for all listeners, Tiff is a rock star.
100%. But what I meant was just like, she started as just makeup, which is a difficult job, putting us on national TV every day.
Totally.
And she evolved into my best friend in the world. She's like my kids like her more than me. She's part of the family. She's Auntie Tiff. Actually, she's Tiffany. She's Tiancé. I'm Stella and Tiancé. It'll be a movie someday.
Yes.
She was here.
Totally will.
Yeah. Just fixed my face as I was driving into work, and my parents here, and my dad's like, come on, girls, huddle up. And he recited one of the prayers that we say at Catholic Church, Saint Michael the Archangel. And I don't have it fully memorized, so if you're interested, you guys should go look it up, because it's really amazing, and it just casts away evil spirits and gives you strength walking into any place. And so he had memorized it and gathered us up and said that prayer, and to basically, again, cast away any bad anything, and be protected. And so that's how I walked out the door. I said, I love you guys. I felt stronger, and I drove in, and I was shaking, but as soon as I walked in those doors, and you guys know the doors, I just deep breath, calmed down, and walked in and did it. And that was like October 16th or 18th, 2021. And every single day from that moment on, when I drove into work, I'd park the car, finish putting my mascara on in the parking lot, call my parents, and we'd recite that prayer every single day until my last day at work, which was, I believe, July 27th or 28th, 2023. So no matter what was coming at me, and I felt a lot when I was there, when you're suing a company and then you're still on their airwaves every day, and there'd been a lot of stuff, it was definitely a unique situation. And by the way, there were a lot of very kind people too, so many. But that gave me strength, that I felt untouchable in that way, because I knew it was so much bigger than me or any feeling anybody might throw at me. Like, I knew I was protected. And so St. Michael the Archangel and the Colonel huddling us up, I'll never forget that moment. I'm so grateful.
So much of transforming is pivoting in life. And sometimes those pivots come personally, professionally, spiritually, even what we've talked about. Both of you guys went through pivots that were public. And Jade, your pivot was a little different, certainly leaving ESPN than Sage's. But I'm curious, Sage, I'd love for you to speak into this, what this pivot has been like, because it's only been a couple of months, but it's been so public in your pivot, leaving ESPN and everything that took place when you said goodbye to that place, and seeing you on all of these different shows. It's been a very public goodbye, if you will, from ESPN, and maybe yours wasn't, Jade, initially. But I'd be curious to know how you said that people were kind at ESPN, which is good. I like hearing that. But how has it been kind of behind the scenes? Obviously, we're not naming names, but just publicly, maybe people are afraid to support. I know talking to they said, I can't post anything because I don't want to lose my job, but I'm all in on what Sage is doing, and I support her and I love her. There was a few people that told me that. Is that what you felt? Like there was a lot of people who were telling you, hey, I'm behind you. Maybe they didn't even say this, but they would tell you they're behind you, but publicly they just are afraid they might lose their job.
Right. So,
yes and no. I mean, the people that were outwardly kind were just some of the studio crew, the people that don't get the love and credit at ESPN. Yeah. But they would do it quietly, sometimes in the restroom. A couple young women separately came up and were like, thank you. Please don't be silent. Please know that you're not alone. I wish I could say something. I wish I could, and then I don't have the platform, is what they would say. And sometimes it'd be in a commercial break, when you run to the restroom and make sure they turn my mic off, please, so I can pee.
Right. I'm trusting you. This is a big thing.
Yeah. And so I made sure, when they were saying that to me, I wanted to protect them for just having the courage to say something to me. I was brought to tears a couple of times, men and women, I would say, yes, there were a couple of people, a handful of people like, public facing, some of the on-air people. Sure. Who privately were like, I love you, stay strong. I wish I could say something. And I'm like, oh gosh, number one, thank you. Number two, no pressure. I get it. Are you kidding me? This is why I stayed silent for so many years, because you see what happens. I've said this several times. I'm the poster child for why people stay silent. I understand it. I get it. For me, it was just enough. Enough was enough. And then there was just too much hypocrisy, especially when I was punished for being me, talking about my situation, when everybody else was allowed to go next level political on our airwaves, which is not what I did. So there was just a turning point for me where it was like, enough. So I understood why nobody said anything, and I get it. There have been times, sure, through the last 2 years where I'm like, wow, if I had just bitten my tongue, continued to be silent to please the world, I wouldn't be in this situation. But it goes back to God. Like, I know it is happening for a reason. I literally feel now that it's one of the reasons why I'm here, is because I'm not afraid, and he's helped me to not be afraid to speak out and try to help. It's not about me anymore, but help others to not feel this fear. Listen, there were a lot of, I'll be honest. I was definitely disappointed more than I was happy, or I don't know the right word, with some of my friends.
Sure.
You know, I don't, again, expect anybody to do anything publicly, but even privately, when you know someone's heart, when you've been friends for years and years, when you're supportive of others, publicly, much less privately, but then even privately, they kind of, you know, just don't even say, hi, how are you? Right. Or yeah, you know, and I think it's been difficult and kind of heartbreaking. But it's also been, I think, a blessing, because I know who's in my circle. It's a very small circle. I've always been really naive and too trusting. So it's taken me a long time to figure that out, be a little bit more closed maybe, and smarter maybe, not closed, because I don't ever want that hurt to change who I am, right? Because it's very easy for us to allow pain to then make you say, okay, never mind. I used to say it, you know, living in Connecticut at first, when I'm super friendly and my kids are, and we just say hi to everybody. And here in Connecticut, they're like, what does she want from me? I'm like, no, I'm just saying hi.
You're like, I'm just being nice. Like,
yes,
I know.
it's
I
like,
totally, I get that 100%, because that's me and my
sorry,
kids who
Jason,
talk to everybody.
I know Jason's from Bristol. I'm sorry, but moving up here to the Northeast was so difficult. And my kids would be like, Mommy, look, I opened the door and they just walked in and didn't say, and I'm like, you keep doing it, because it is easier to just go in your shell and say, when you get your feelings hurt, just say, never mind. But that's on us if we allow that. So I just feel like, good, even though it was painful to see who really actually was my friend. I sound like a sixth grader. It needed to happen. And so needless to say, there's very few people that I keep in touch with there, very few. But I'll always wish them success, because I think deep down they're very good people. But again, it's not, I've never wanted anybody to stand up for me publicly, or even what I believe in or agree with me or not agree. I think there's a human element that we forget. And, you know, when I'm like, well, she loves you, but doesn't want to really be seen with you. That's what she told me. I'm like, so you just have to let go of it. And I wish them all well. But in no regrets, you know, I can't let that change me.
Sure. Sage Steele with us on Transformed. You know, you started talking about how when you walked in all those years ago, you know, you were this like perfectionistic, like, how do I make sure that I say this perfectly? How do I make sure that I don't upset anybody, that I kind of keep everybody close? And now, like, you fast forward and here you are and you're like, okay, like, I know I can't be perfect. And I know that I can't please everybody. Maybe a lot of people, right? Like,
Most.
I mean, most, right? So when you sort of think about just the arc of everything that you went through to reach that point, do you feel some sense of relief now? Like, how would you describe, like, I guess emotionally, spiritually, where you are versus how it was?
Yeah. I didn't know what I didn't know at that time, you know,
Yeah.
and when you, like, I've always kind of been a fighter, even though I didn't know that I was a fighter. I look back a lot and I'm like, gosh, because I think we all, especially in this profession, we all have been told no and told that we suck and told all these things. And then you start to believe it and you're like, I'm just so grateful to be here. I'm just so grateful to be here. And it's like, good, let's not use that. Let's not use that. Excuse me. Let's not lose that. However, it goes both ways. And we offered a lot to our employers as well, no matter what job we've ever worked in. And so, again, it's hard sometimes for me to look back at that fearful young woman, especially when I started at ESPN. And when I started there, my kids were 11 months old, 2 and 4.
Right.
And just at that time in 2007, it was a very different time there as far as being a young mother, and especially in the spotlight right away. I don't know that there's any network that's like, hi, come on in and we'll help you adjust. No.
Oh, no. It's like, we needed you here yesterday, so get at it. Hurry up, go. Like,
yeah. And so I think emotionally, where am I with that listen, I'm really proud of myself for finally letting go of it. It's exhausting to try to be perfect in every way and to try to please the world. And I also, you know, I don't want my girls to feel like I did for all this time. And so, and my son to in the same way. And they've seen their mom transform, right? And also, I remember when I got the NBA Countdown job in 2013, it happened like 2 weeks before the season began. Yeah. They had fired Mike Wilbon from that position, which was dumb. And then because Mike was gone, Magic quit. And then it was just Bill Simmons and Jalen, and it was like this mess. And they just were like, "Hey, we need a host. Will you come?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. Like, what do you do?" And so within a week, my whole life changed. And I was then, instead of going in, driving 20 minutes to work, and I was doing the 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern SportsCenter at that time. So I got to work out in the morning, get my kids on the bus, write the show, go to work, write the show, get on the air, off the air, in my car at 3:05, at the bus stop by 3:45. It's like I didn't work. I was there for every moment with my kids, and tired, but on it. And then all of a sudden it was, okay, on Wednesdays or Thursdays, you're going to fly from Hartford to Los Angeles, and you're going to work with this whole new crew, some of whom didn't want you there. And I didn't know that till I got there. And then come back on Sunday, red eye to Monday. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, with 3 kids. And I had just signed up to be the room mom for all 3 kids, because you can't let one feel unloved by not being the room mom in their class, right? Again, that's what I did to myself. And every Wednesday night before I left, I would stay up till like midnight and make banana bread for them, because I thought, this is where I can't, because I thought, if I'm not there, then at least they know that I cared, and that part of me is there with banana bread, like random, right? But it was just such a struggle. I just didn't want to let them down, or my husband down. And at the time, my husband, and try to give him a break from having to cook every morning with 3 little ones. And so it just, and then flying on red, like I was exhausted, and I crashed, Sure. So it affected my every part of my life, I guess, is my point. And no one did that but me. So I think when I let go of the pleasing, actually, that led to it, those moments, which I don't regret, but once I realized that no matter how hard of a worker you are, or how loyal you are to your team, or how nice you are, or friendly you are, or whatever, when you're hated for your opinions, even though you're nice and doing the right things in the most important ways, you got to let go of it. So once I started to kind of get crushed for having a couple of random opinions, back when I was much less controversial, I was like, wow, I'm nice, I'm good, I'm loyal, and they still hate me. So it's like, at that point, that's on me if I'm going to continue to try to please them, but it affected every aspect of my life.
There's so much that comes with being a public figure. I'm thinking of a Bible verse. John 3:30 it's John the Baptist talking about Jesus and saying he must increase, we must decrease, talking about the increase in Christ and the decrease of self. And Sage, well, all these people, good and bad, have brought you these worldly praise or these worldly critical, thoughts and criticism that's come your way. How have you been able to, and maybe this is still a work in progress too, but how have you been able to kind of stay focused on Christ, right? Lock eyes on him and not lock eyes on what other people think. And you've talked a little bit about that here already, but even the praise, if we get caught up in worldly praise, man, I heard somebody say ego is easing God out. And if our ego becomes big, too big for us, we're not giving, room for God to work in the way that he can. How have you seen that sort of work in your life, especially these last few years where everything's kind of become so much more public?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always had trouble accepting compliments, and I realized that by being like, no, you did a great job, or what is it, anything, you look great these days. Wow, you look like you're in shape. Oh my gosh, I'm not in shape. I haven't run all week. We immediately, are negative towards ourselves, and I realized that then you start to believe it. And again, most importantly, your kids watch everything. And so they were seeing me like make myself smaller and not be grateful for someone's kind words when they didn't even have to take the time to say that, So but there's a line to it, certainly. And I've always been humble. And I think that you can be confident and believe in yourself and be strong and stand up for yourself, but still maintain that humility. It's actually crucial. And listen, I still go back to that 11-year-old kid who had this crazy dream to be a sportscaster, to be on TV, when I was so shy, I didn't even talk to many other people outside of my family. Like, I was crazy, weirdly shy. My parents literally watched me on TV every single day at ESPN for almost 17 years, because it was like, who is this person? What have you done with my Sage? Because they had to literally pull me out of my shell. So you look at from where I came as a kid and so shy and having to push through it, and all the years of being told how terrible I was because I talk too fast and I don't look like other anchors, and look at your hair and look at your, and so I believed all that for a long time. And then when I got to, you move up, you're like, oh my gosh, thank you for having me. Thank you for hiring me, ESPN. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, which I meant. But it's like, wait, they're not doing you favors. Any business is only hiring you if they think that you can do something good for them as well. It's a team, it's a partnership. They don't do favors at our level, and I think we're all very clear on that. So, yep. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. I just really, that's one of the things that actually bums me out the most about our industry, is how so many people allow it to go to their head and affect them. And I think you see that the most in the way they treat others. Mm-hmm. And there are several people who are still representing ESPN on our airwaves there that I see it, and it broke my heart because I had them on pedestals, you know what I mean? And most of them are have moved on or are gone, but it's like, oh my gosh, yes, you are great at your job, but who cares if that's how you treat the kid running the teleprompter or the researcher or the producer, right? And I think that used to break my heart. And I'm like, what are you doing? That's why I think I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of is no matter what happened, again, you can be firm and you can hold people accountable, but you can do it with kindness. And I felt like that crew every day, the ones that were in the trenches with us in the studio, and the producers, like the directors, and Kaylin Flockhart and my co-host Matt Berry, like we rocked it, and we stayed humble, and we laughed at ourselves, So in anything we do, no matter how much success, if you don't maintain that humility, that's on you. And it's just not the example that we need to set. So I've tried to find the balance between not accepting a compliment, right? Mm-hmm. Let's accept it, have the grace with it, and say thank you, and take that in, because I know that all of us, the three of us, are also very hard on ourselves. Mm-hmm. And that's not what God wants either.
Right. No, I think that's so true. And like, I know for me, like, that's something that I think about a ton with my kids, right? Because I am so hard on myself, and I'm like, oh, Jade, like, you don't want your kids to be their own worst critic either. Like, you want them to know that, like, God loves them and God has a big plan for them, and to trust in that plan and to take steps forward in that plan. And that's hard when you're constantly holding yourself up to some perfectionistic image of what you think you should be, right? Yes. I mean, it's very, very hard. And to try to unwind that as a mom or as a dad, Jason, because you're right, Sage, like, kids see and notice everything, right? Like, more is caught than taught. And so it's very challenging, because these are all things that we've done for a lifetime. So then to all of a sudden, like, unwind them, it's tricky. It's really tricky. So, like, think about your relationship with your kids now, and sort of where you all are as a family, and how significant that is for you as a mom, and for them as two daughters and a son, right? Like, I'm sure it's had a huge impact on them.
You mean just the part about accepting
just who you are, right? And the ways in which you've grown over the past, call it 10 years. And how that has, like, rolled on to impact them.
Lately they haven't loved it because, and I struggle with this, because they just, when mom's name is in headlines, they feel it too.
Sure.
It's one thing if this were 10 years ago, that's different, when they would have been 7, 9, and 11. But at this age, it's different. And I had struggled with that. Especially because at times, one of the kids in particular is like, Mom, don't talk about politics. Mom, don't talk about this. Mom, don't talk about that. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I kept it all quiet for a long time, and so it's a balance. Her reasoning is because they don't want to hear it with friends, or some even teachers have said stuff like, stay in your lane. And that's when I've called it out with the school. I'm like, listen, if anybody wants to talk to their mother, that's fine. Keep my kids out of it. But they did see, I'll say this, and you might've heard me tell the story. I've said it like twice recently because I kind of had kept it quiet because it was hard for me to say. And so now I'm like, no, it's okay to say it, Sage. Basically, when I decided to stand up for myself, sorry, dog in the background. When I decided to stand up for myself and actually filed a lawsuit against ESPN, it was like the most devastating, difficult time for me to have to make that decision. And my oldest daughter, Quinn, was at college already. And my son, Nicholas, was a senior in high school. My youngest, Evan, was a sophomore. And so I went to each one separately. And my youngest was struggling a little bit with it, but understood. My oldest was like, okay, I support you. I love you. Be careful, And then my son, who's kind of the observant, kind of more pensive, quieter one, he sits around and observes all the chaos with the three women in his life. I sat down with him. I went down his room and I'm like, can I talk to you? And I told him the whole thing. And I was just very nervous about what he would say as well. And he stopped what he was doing and he looked at me and he goes, Mom, it's about time you stood up for yourself. When he said that, I just bawled because look, I thought by staying silent or just going in my shell every time I said something, and then I would get, negative comments or in trouble, that I was just doing the right thing. Just get quiet, get quiet, get quiet. Other people at ESPN, other on-air people, what are you doing? Like, why? And just stay silent, just stop. How does this help you? In the book, I'll reveal all of it because I'm starting my book writing process just because I don't want others to feel this way. That's the reason why I want to do it. But when my son said that, it's about time, Mom, I thought I'd been doing it the right way. Even my son thought, gosh, look, she's making herself smaller. He was only 17. So I'm so grateful that he was honest with me. And I was like, Mom, it's about time. We think we know what they're thinking, and we don't always. And we have a super close relationship. I talk to my kids all the time about everything, probably too much. But it's the first time he revealed it to me. And so throughout the process, and it was, 16 months from the time the lawsuit was filed till it was settled, and working every day throughout it, et cetera, and trying to be normal and mom and all that. His words kept me going. My son kept me going because I knew it was past time to do it, even though it was really, really scary. So I think that was proof to me that the transformation was not lost on them. And my biggest prayer is that they are better than me and that they are stronger than I was, that it doesn't take them this long to find their strength and confidence and to let go of what everybody else thinks and do the right thing for themselves and hopefully for other people.
Echo. I know that prayer well. Seriously. No, but I think that's why I asked the question, Sage, because of exactly what Nicholas, a little boy who I remember chasing turtles in your backyard, like
snakes more than turtles, right? It wasn't a lot of snakes.
Oh, I remember maybe I just tuned out the snakes because I don't want to remember that.
You were like, don't bring those near my son. That's what you were saying.
But you think about what he said to you as a 17-year-old, and it's like, it's about time. Well, yeah, because like now your kids are seeing that side of you versus what they were seeing before. And you think about how that has an impact on their own life. And like, there is some beauty in that.
It is. It's a blessing. And I've got great kids who, trust me, they are so critical of me, like in every aspect of everything else I do. Everything.
Why? Kids are mirrors.
I'm like, you are so, and then I threaten them. I'm like, oh, you want the car tonight? Take that back. Hug me, kiss me right now, right here. You don't get the car, and it usually works.
I couldn't even get Sarah to read my first book that I wrote. I'm like, Sarah, could you just read Dad's story here. It's, Dad, I lived your story. I'm like, no, read it, please.
Actually, no, you didn't.
Hard to get these kids.
But I love that you did that, Jason, and thank you. That takes courage too. And you've shared, oh my gosh, you've shared so much. And even if they're not ready now, man, they're going to have that forever. And then your great grandkids are always going to know what you did and what you went through.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I hope that's all of our goals, is to leave a legacy for our kids and our grandkids and great grandkids and all that, to look and say, you know what, they did okay. They had their struggles. They walked different paths. They made mistakes, but they did okay. I'm curious, real quick, Sage, about your kids spiritually. Have you seen any kind of transformation in that over the past few years? Because that can be hard sometimes as you grow closer, and everybody's relationship with God is their own personal relationship that they have to walk through themselves. But you said you're so close to your kids that just having that I mean, hosting an Athletes in Action breakfast, or going on the 700 Club, or even doing this podcast, those are big, bold steps to talk about your faith. I wonder how that's kind of resonated in the household a little bit with the kids.
Yeah. Well, it's been interesting. I think it was hard during the pandemic because the church closed down, and they love our priest as well. Like, they love him. When they were little, when we moved from Connecticut to Scottsdale, Arizona, I was working in LA for NBA, but didn't want to live in LA, lived in Scottsdale, just took the quick flight over. The only reason we were sad to leave Connecticut to work out there was because of our priest. My kids used to ask to sit front row center at church. I never did that growing up. That's how influential he is. And he's just incredible. So I love that. But then pandemic, we couldn't go, and it was hard to do it on a Zoom or whatever it was from the church. And so that was tough. Listen, I'll also be honest. I got divorced 4 years ago. And that was very hard, and obviously in every possible way. I was married for 20 years, together for 27 years, my first boyfriend. Like, it was a big deal, and certainly not what I would ever have dreamt of for my kids, for myself, for my ex-husband, but that affects you when you don't go to church as a family anymore. All of those things, kind of the shrapnel that comes from something like that. So I think that there was a little bit of disenchantment based on that. Listen, I as that was happening, my faith just grew and grew and grew through the decision with divorce, through the process of it. Unfortunately, we're very amicable. Kids are the priority. That's how it should be. I always am devastated when I see couples who go through that and choose, it's a choice, choose to not be amicable for the sake of your children. So I'm proud of that. But obviously it hurt them, and I just tried to rely on faith to talk to them about that. I'll say that my youngest is, she's getting there. She's 17. My son, getting there as well. He's a sophomore in college. My oldest daughter, Quinn, and she's 21. She came home this past summer from college with a new tattoo. And I'm like, oh, great. We're getting things and tattoos. And I'm like, I quit. Guess what? She's awesome. Jade, you've met her. She is awesome. Yeah. Quinn is still, she walks in the room, and you better buckle your seatbelt. It was scripture right here on her wrist. Wow. And gosh, I've Genesis, and I forgot, I'm embarrassed. I forgot what it was, but I was like, what prompted you to do that? And she said, I think it was about, help me. It was about how we are dust, turning to dust, and just to remember how small we are in the world. And it brought me to tears that my Quinn, as I call her, been through a lot, and that she chose to put that here. She said, so every day when I look down and I'm having a bad day, or I didn't do well on the test, or whatever it is, I can look down and remain humble, Mom. I mean, hello, what more I'm so proud of her. I was so anti-tattoo, and then she inspired me to get one when I turned 50. Like, what has happened in this house? So I have one here, and I'm coming for more, thanks to my daughter. But like, my dad is absolutely mortified. I'm like, Dad, I'm 50. It's okay. He's like, I'm like, Dad, it's too late.
It's too late. Wait, that ship has sailed, Dad. Sorry.
It's over. As long as I'm not Post Malone, who I love, and it's all over my face, we're good, right? But for my 21-year-old to put a scripture on her wrist to maintain perspective and remember how small she is, and to praise God for everything, I'm so proud of her because at 21, I believed, but I would never have spoken about it. This is speaking when you put it there publicly. I'm so proud of her. We all struggle and have our ups and downs, but her choice to do that makes me say, okay, we have not been perfect as parents. We've done our best. And then to co-parent, right? We did something right because she's got God in her heart and that's what she leads with.
Amen. Right. I mean, that is like the greatest gift that we can give our children. And the three of us sit here, all of us parents, and I'm sure that every one of us has prayed that prayer. Like, I hope that my son or my daughter pursues Jesus and has a relationship with God. Right. I mean, like, it's like, keep the Lord in your heart. I mean, that's like the greatest gift that I think we can give our children.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I love that story. Sage, this has been so great. It's been really fun to catch up. Thanks for being here.
Listen, thank you for having me. You two are doing God's work. Obviously, you really are. And I know that it has not been easy for you two to get to this point. And listen, we all have this in common. I think anybody watching, listening, it's never just a straight road anywhere. Right? Look at Jason's face. He's like, nope. And
life is not linear.
No, man, but I don't know. How do you feel? Because to me, I literally would not change a thing. Even the times when I was broken and scared and sick physically and mentally, I wouldn't change it. Like, we're right where we're supposed to be. And what you're doing takes a lot of courage. And I've loved seeing your growth too. It's really cool.
Yeah, I echo that. Good job, Jade. You're awesome.
Oh, me. I thought it was going towards you, Jason, all the way. So
no, it's both you. And I love that you're doing it together. And look at the full circle of all of this. Look at us.
I know. It's so, it is funny, like, to go back and think about, where we all were and how we all intersected, and that God had this great plan that none of us had any idea of, that we would all be sitting here having this conversation.
You're helping people, though. You're helping people be more comfortable to speak about it, right? And I've seen several people who left ESPN for one reason or another over the last several years, and I think that we are so grateful for our time, right? Really, I'm grateful for every moment. But I think we get in this like bubble. You don't realize there's a lot out there, and a lot of things are much more important than sports.
Yep.
And you two are proof of that.
I'll tell you what I miss. I miss the Disney Silver Pass. That thing was gold, and even though it was silver, and it is now extremely expensive if I want to take my kid. So I miss the Disney Silver Pass.
Yeah. Well, I don't ever plan to ever go to any Disney property again, so I don't know. You can have mine. Sorry.
If my little ones knew the Disney Silver Pass, they would miss it too, Jason. They missed it. Totally missed it. Like, the boys remember it, but the little ones don't.
Can we have an in-person reunion at some point here in Connecticut?
Yes. Harder for me, but I'll find a way.
We'll come up there. There's a lot more to do in Boston, right, Jason? We'll come up there.
There you go.
I'm in. Let's do it.
We're a mile from the beach. Come to the beach. It's great.
Oh, wait, no, yeah, you're even north of there. See, she got fancy, Jason. She's near the beach.
Yeah. I'm nowhere near a beach, but that's okay.
Oh, Sage, Jason, thank you much. Blessings to both of you and your families.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching today on Sports Spectrum. Make sure you click that subscribe button so you don't miss any other videos. And if you want more stories on sports and faith, check out our website, sportsspectrum.com.